gas. And then lastly, we have not oil, which is caused by constant formation of dry soil and with saturated soils without any sludge in a microcontent. It's the most instant response of the soil to the stress conditions. The astronauts had is short and dry, so singing is a slated elastic. So, can you say elastic syndrome? Another term for it is rigid setup, but the term rigid talaga by definition insipida only ang settlement. So when you apply the load right away after the load is placed, mo settle na ang atong soil. So what siya siya is the immediate iyahang pag-sususol. Then, magkakahita po sa plastic settlement class. Even though na nakay load nga naputang, wala pa'y changes sa imong water. Kay bali, napa-intact pa imong water, wala pa siya ni gawas sa soil. Okay, so imong water, wala nag-change. Wala kag nag-press o damp na soil, ay damp na sponge bitaw. Pag imo na siya press at a certain point, dili pa di ba na mo gawas ang water sa water na iyang na-absorb. So, inana ang example sa elastic settlement. So, wala ba'y gagawas ng water ana. Now, for primary consolidation, so, tanan na siya kakahita po sa kanang mga clay soils. So, tungod, similar sa to ang discussion kaganina that we have foils in our soils, ipasok ang melon siya, so maglisod yung bawa at water. So, maglisod siya. Okay, the rest ng the water leaves atong soil particles magka naman ang bukadon. So, closer together na sila, making the ground sink more. Ang water magawas, ang voids magamay kay dikit-dikit naman ang imong soil particles. So, ang imong settlement mo settle na rin ang imong soil. And then for secondary consolidation, settlement, it
Oo,
happens after most of the water has drained.
naman.
So, wala na yung water sa imong home. So,
Yes.
napagawas mo niya ng water cost. So,
Oo,
kung
tumama.
mahitabuan na, even though wala na yung water, imong soil, continue careful niyang pag-adjust, pag-rearrange ang ihang mga soil particles slowly over time. So, inana ang secondary consolidation. So, mostly, ang ihang difference is naa sa iyang water. No? Ang elastic settlement is yung nag-settle siya pero wala changes sa iyang water. Sa primary is gagawas ang water, gasettle po siya. Sa secondary is nagawas na ng water, then gasettle po siya. Sa inhalation. Next is we have total settlement.
Naligo man ko. Ay, wala di ko napalit sampo.
Sige, kanina ko wait lang. Wait. Hello? Kinsa tong gusto mo? Kaka-off mic na ako. Sige lang. Naligo pati nga ay funny man eh. Padayon ta. Anyways, so total settlement from term total settlement. Total, so the total na tanan settlements. So itong kaganina ng mga settlements mo, it happens in different stages. Gaya na parang total supplements, that is actually total primary, yung secondary o yung ito nalimutan na natin. Okay, so take note of sometimes ito ang soil pwede na explain ito ang consolidation settlement gani siya ato ang primary and secondary consolidation settlement is usually mas dako siya sa ating elastic settlement. So mag-cover mas dako jud ning atong SC ug SS. So na types dili ang ginaw considers elastic settlement. So let's continue sa ato ang discussion for sa ato primary consolidation settlement, there are three types here. We have primarily consolidated claims and over consolidated claims. Now, when we say with phase, these are things choose present effective over pressure. It's maximum pressure that the story is subjected in times. So, paano silang dua plus? Ano sila mga? Anyways, over consolidated claims. These are those that the present effective number then pressure is less than which the soul experienced in the past. The maximum effective tense pressure is only pre-consolidation pressure. So, yung matagang ka mag-analogy ha. So, imagine ikaw tapos naakay yung like crazy ex. Ay, imong current na ganyan partner is crazy lugar o tapos wala man current. Muna sila normally consolidated. Muna na ang pinaka-crazy ninyo nga person nga na-meet. Si over-consolidated is naka imuhang ex may crazy. Ang imong current to dili. Gets mo no plus ang analogy. Kaya bali, si over-consolidated place is naa siya ay plus. Si normally consolidated plane is ang current niya nga pressure is mo na ang pinakadako. Si over-consolidated plane is ang iyang first na na-experience na pressure ang dako versus sa current niya nga pressure. So here are some examples though that we need to familiarize. So we have CC, convention in CS, swell index, and sometimes at all swell index, they will be given, so you need to use this formula. CS is equal to 1/5 of CC. And PO, that gives you overburden pressure, fifth of stress, equal to sinus at the moment sa mid-height sa tuang plane. It will always be mid-height cycling, just like our previous discussions. PO will always be measured some mid-height cycling. Okay, so delta P is the additional pressure due to the load. Then BC is the pre-consolidation pressure or the maximum effective pressure. So delta E is the total change to void ratio caused by the additional load application, while the void ratio of clay before the application of the load is equal to void ratio. Void ratio, and then HC is the thickness and shuttle failure lang. So this is our formula for the primary consolidation cycle. For normal consolidation, we use this formula. Take note, CC, munition formula 0.009, LM is 10. For consolidation, monetization. So there are two conditions. If less than less than the maximum pressure, fast pressure, or if greater than siya. So if less than, this is the formula that you will use. And if greater than, this is the formula that you will use. Take note, kanina sa ano siya swelling, na, this means na pag iyang experience currently is mas level compared sa pre-consolidation stress. And yeah, so class kani siya kaya report na siya swelling lang. But siya, if you can notice, pag imong current na pressure siya imong swelling down is less than sa in experience before. So imagine if na-apply imo na ano na sa previously mo nga sa let's just say previously mo nga pre-consolidation pressure is naka-experience ang swell o assuming na niya 100 kilonewtons. Oh. Tapos sa sunod, gitanggal na lugar itong load ng 100 kilonewtons. Kung ulit yun, 50 kilonewtons na lang. So, siya may tabo sa muso yung taas na lubos. Siyempre, na swelling, may tabo. So, wala na siya. Yung index theory is swelling. Then, pag return na siya, ano pa din na sa compression index. So, our swelling index is 1/5 of our CC to 1/10 of our CC. Now, in man siya, no, there are cases na, especially sa question, if wala gihatag si CS, you might have to try first if nasa choices if gamitan nimo si 1/5 CC. If wala, try another value, siguro 1/6 or 1/8. So, kung ano bahala. And then we recheck na sa choices. Inana mo daw kuno ang gagawin sa boards class. So, depende siya sa nag-make sa questionnaire if ano iba if kung sige gamit na spelling index. So, for kung common jud is kanina fifth. So, safe jud if yung fifth minimum gamiton. So, if ko was, ay yung ka try sa other na mga course. Also, take note, itong over-consolidated ratio or OCR is just the NC over PO. So there will be times na dili given si PO or dili given si PC, it will given si OCR. Okay? So, yun yung isolve. If solve pa tayo, ano lang. Then, we have here apply 2:1 method if applicable. This is for solving the additional person. There will also be times na there will also be times na dili given sa additional pressure, so you need to solve it. Right? So, given dili given si additional pressure at have na given si load na nasa taas, so you need to solve it. But ayun, depende sa areas mo focusing that later you take some time. No, for secondary settlement, the formulas are this one. So, if familiarize somewhat, so EP is EO minus delta P. Got pressure. Hindi din siya familiarize, memorize siya. Yes. And also take note, I mean, at home for now. If you can notice kanina, mga formulas is, dali na siya i-memorize kay yung structure mo good same lang nakalahi sa swelling index o sa pressure same na o structure like whichever one sa saying when plus logarithmic same na yung kalahi kanina yung CCS and your pressure. And then for the delta E, that is equal to CC logarithmic this format. And then also we have here the secondary compression index, not putting formula, but sometimes given ang equation ana, or if dili given equation, given value should mismo. So for elastic settlement, this is the formula. So that is C as Q, not the formula with Q. That is your pressure. Hmm? Q is equal to force over area. And then CS is actually the shape and the foundation rigidity factor. Then we have here width of the foundation. Then they put if square version or if circular diameter ang iyong ginapasagutan. Then mu is the Poisson's ratio, the modulus elasticity, and the influence factor. So usually given from. And for example one, the soil profile shown in the figure consists of 9 meters of clay and underlain by 6 meters at the 9 meters of sand, sa kuno siya, sand, and kining sa ubos is clay. So the panita is normally it is a clay is what if daw kuno itong clay is normally consolidated. So namatay formula ana, di ba? So for normally consolidated, this is the formula. But first things first, we need to solve our over consolidation pressure. So kung saan gani solve sa over consolidation pressure, that is just your unit weight times the height. So since naman tayo mga saturated portion na ako, so then diretso na ako to. No. Look at the line, dito 3 meters nga water table from the ground. So, kami siya dili nga part, saturated, meaning natay for water pressure. Tindak water pressure sa ato ang total stress. Anyways, balik ta. That is just 16 times 3, okay? Plus 18.5 times 5, which is 6, plus 19 times 3, 103, mid-height sa clay. Do not forget this one because usually students hindi sila masayop. So, common mistake na siya. I hope you won't make the same mistake. So that is 3 meters. And then you deduct the pore water pressure, which is the unit weight of your water times the total height of your water table. So that's 6 plus 3 total. So you have your overburden pressure. We can now finally solve for our um, primary settlement. So the final answer is 158.97. Now, what if the complete consolidation pressure is 190 kPa? First things first, you need to check if it is greater than or less than. So, auto sa resolve to over virgin pressure over to additional pressure, and that is 177, which is less than 190. Meaning, our solution is this one. So, muna itong gamitin ng formula. And take note, wala di pa tayo gihatag value sa CS, so we need to solve that one. We direction of substitute theory, and that is 1/5 of your compression index. Yung dara atong compression index. Okay. So that is 31.79. Also, I would like to add, kaning height dire, if yung input dire is 6 meters, yung answer dire kay naka meters. Since ato ang input dire is naka millimeters, atong final answer is naka millimeters. Okay? So, depende if pila yung input side. Now, for pre-consolidation mo 170. So, itong total 0.77, that is greater. So, katong taas ng equation na itong gamitan. And then we'll substitute. Okay, kung naman ako tanan given na. We'll find the answer would be 48.86. Then, for
Next
example, 2.
on.
Hmm,
Next on.
I would like to have someone else to read example number 2. Um, si Juliana, na hello, wala si Juliana. Musayaw, hindi sa face-to-face ng mga dili na dyan. Nang dili matubag pagtawagon kinasayaw face-to-face ha. Sige, so wala na kayo ni read example number 2.
A 2-meter clay layer has a void ratio of 0.99, a specific gravity of 2.72, and a liquid limit of 40%. Above the clay is a 3-meter thick layer of sand with a void ratio of 0.50 and specific gravity of 2.64. The water table is located 1.6 meters below the ground surface, and a 3-meter thick backfill is placed on the ground surface with a unit weight of 17.3 kilonewton per meter cube. Compute the compression index of the clay. Second, compute the effective pressure.
Sorry.
Effective pressure at the midpoint of clay. And third, compute the primary settlement for normally consolidated clay.
Okay, thank you, Robbie Joy. So, ang first, ang compute is compression index. We will just use this formula. No, dali na kayo. Kung someone is trying to join, ayan. So, ato naman i-substitute. Wala naman tayo liquid limit here. Final answer, 0.27. Now for letter B is the effective pressure of at the midpoint of clay. So that is your PO, right? So first is kung saan nato itong mga unit weight. So unit weight sa tuang sand, unit weight sa tuang saturated unit weight sa sand, and also sa tuang clay saturated unit weight. Since we all have the unit weights now, we can solve for our effective stress at the midpoint, which is our PO. So that's basically 17.3 times 1.6, 20.4 times 1.4, 18.6 times 1. 1 kaya kanina to 2 divide o 1 half kay midpoint sa clayman, okay? And then minus the pore water pressure, we have the final answer 51.02 kPa. Now for letter C, we have here compute the primary settlement for normally consolidated clay. So we will be using this formula since we all have the values naman needed for this one. All we have to do is just input this to our calculator and then final answer is 85.71. If you have any questions, you just raise your hand or pwede rin ito rin on mic. Okay? So for example number 3, let's have Nigel Aparasa. Is Nigel Aparasa present?
Yes, ma'am. Good.
Okay. Thank you.
A 3 meter square footage constructed over a loose sand layer as shown at the picture. It carries a total load of 700 kg. A. Compute the elastic settlement of the footing if the Buckland of 0.32 modulus of elasticity of soil is 60,000 kPa and an influence factor is 0.88. E. Compute the primary consolidation factors of the clay layer that is normally consolidated. Compute the total consolidated settlement of the clay 5 years after the completion of the primary consolidation settlement. Time for the primary settlement is 2 years. Second, direct compression process.
Okay, so thank you, Anna Child. Again, so conditional problem is sa belong na siya sa elastic. Ay, elastic. No. Pero yes, plastic I mean. So, di ba naman tayo formula ato na kano siya direct substitution na pwede siya sa formula. Since given naman ato ang Poisson's ratio, given na po atong modulus of elasticity, atong Q, we need to solve this one. So, first is Q is equal to pressure naman na. So, that's force over area. Ang iyong libot diri, yan ang diretsong substitute. So, that's 710 over the area of 3. Class, please take note of the units. Huh? So, your unit should coincide. Okay. One way to do this is if ma-cancel out ba ang mga units. So, you might wonder, no, ma'am, 3,000 lagi naka-mm, tapos naka-kn, tapos naka-meters man eh. Plus, 710, 3 squared, diba, that is kPa. And then, atong ES is naka-kPa, so ma-cancel out ra na siya. Meaning, ang mabilin, lang atong 3,000, which is, naka-millimeters. And that is the dimension of our square footing meters. Itong final answer is naka-millimeters. Okay? Now, for the primary consolidation, first things first is, di ba kay naman tayo value primary consolidation man, primary consolidated, at yung formula ana kay katumang na delta P, di ba? But wala may gihatag diri nga delta P, ang gihatag ang force. So we need to solve for our additional pressure. So what method are we going to use? The 2:1 method. So atong 2:1 method, mo man ni. So mag-focus lang ta ani sa ato ang play kaning area. Atong ang kaning PT, that is the top. Okay? Look at ang kaning PM is the middle, and then kaning PB is the bottom. Wait, hold on. Excuse me. So they know usually invest the nation from the mom when it's about great. See you. Hi class, you might be wondering, asa ko na ba yung Janine's office? Wondering, let's continue on of peer or additional pressure. The results sa dito si PT, meaning ato ang pressure sa top layer sa atong clay, which is this part over here. Since 2:1 method, so that's just force over area plus force over area. But ang area limitances is ang projection sa imuhang kani trapezoid, diri sa ubos. So, ang itong harnap, that is just 710 your force over area diri. Since square man na siya, naka-squared na siya. But, ang iyahang illustrator, lumituan, mouse ko, sumo siya pagpuntas. Kaya na siya pasa. This is 3 plus 6. The reference area is kind of same again. And the reference area is so force over area na siya. So, short that one. And then for middle, 8 na y 8. Manong 8. Taken siya 2 meters. So that's 2, 2, and there. Yan. Wala siya kanina. And atong formula magod sa kaning change of t class dili. Diba? Sa 2 to is 1 method, that is just force over t plus z squared. Kani, if this is a square footing man. And then, yeah, 5.87. Now for PB, that is, no, ngayon, 4.20. So, substitute na to siya sa atong original equation. Your additional pressure is 6.08. Now, we can finally solve for our PO, which is equal to 119.96. Now, naman tayo value no, so 2PO and delta P, substitute back again to our original equation. Our final answer is 16.91. Now for letter C, namatay gihatag na total consolidation settlement. Sige po ngayon, ang total consolidation settlement. Na naman tayo primary, namatay secondary, ay namatay elastic, namatay primary, kasi kulang secondary. So we need to solve first our secondary. So this is the formula. You have C alpha. Luckily for us, yatag na daan si compression index, secondary compression index, which is 0.02. Now for EP, you need to solve it pa. But wala man yatag na delta E. So delta E, you need to solve it pod. So that is equal to compression index and the logarithmic of your pressures. And that is equal to 6.764 times 10 to the power of negative 3. Then we go back to our original equation, substitute it back here. Yeah, that is your EP. Then finally, we're given naman tanan, so substitute. You have your final answer. Ay, ano yung final answer? Upatong elastic settlement. So itong buhaton para mo sa total, meaning add na to si SC, add na to si SS, add na to si SE. We have a total settlement of 48.57 millimeters. And then, for example, can we have Mr. So, please read.
You the soil profile shown is underlain by a 2.4-meter thick of soft clay that would be subjected to severe settlement when the water table is lowered to improve the site drainage. The silty sand has a unit weight of 15.60 kilonewton per m cube above the water table and a saturated unit weight of 16.58 kilonewton per meter cube below the water table. The clay is normally consolidated, having a void ratio of 1.20 and a water content of 44%, a liquidity index of 0.80, and a plastic limit of 20%.
Okay, thank you, Joel. So, the data is called temperature index, effective stress increase, and then settlement. So, we have the metabolic reaction, also says the bodies, versus first concept of the pressure index. Which bottom is the sheet and all we using nowadays. We have I we need liquid limit, not liquidity index. Kasi yung gamit is 0.8 ha, no. So first is also necessary. So but recall na talking geograph ng mga learnings. So answer formulas to that is mu which is EL over LL minus P. Limonag ka na class, wala pala, lalaki pala. Walay may nga na ng mnemonics. So, you can make your own mnemonics to make it, memorable. But, ang mnemonic ko kung nainhanan is wala pala. Anyways, you substitute your liquidity index, your plastic limit, and your moisture content. If solve, you have 50. Substitute 50 to our compression index formula. So, compression index is equal to 0.36. Now, for the effective stress increase, how will we solve that one? So, first is let's get the saturated unit weight of your clay layer. Okay, when you have that. So, also have to see GS. GS is our GS. So, substitute na to si S, which is in saturated man siya, equal to 1. So, 1.20 avoid ratio. Water content around 0.44. So atom GS is equal to 2.73. So specific gravity, we go to the equation of our saturated unit weight and then substitute all the value. You get 17.52. So okay, kompleto na ato ang unit weights sa ato ang soil. Now for condition 1, cause na to see effective stress. Kaya ang ato ang need kay effective stress increase. Right? So first is effective stress sa current location sa water table, which is nasa 3 meters below the surface. Condition 1 is 83.132. Condition 2 is atong water table is ni isos na daw kuno 1.5. So, ayan. And 1.5 na itong tamang decrease niya, ano? So that is 1.5. So metabo, go to all dry. Sand is named 4.5. So to saturated is named 2.5. So balik ta sa ato ang solution, which is unit weight times height minus the pore pressure. And we get 96.77. So may tabo after ani. How do we get the effective stress increase? Igo na nato i-deduct, right? So minus lang nato ang condition 2 sa condition 1. So bilang increase 13.245. And that is the answer. And then for letter C, determine the settlement that would occur in a failure in response to lowering the ground under table. So for normally consolidated tool, this is our formula. Siguro, gisumahan na mo sige balik-balik ka ng formula. Yung balik-balik.
Wala.
So our answer for this one is 25.20. For example 5,
Para na to sa
can
part
we
ko.
have Miss Mary Ann Dicalan? Na single
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening.
A tank 12-meter high filled with oil having a unit weight of 9.4 kilonewton per cubic meter is to be built on a site. The existing soil profile consists of a 3-meter sand layer underlain by a 14-meter clay layer. The water table is on the ground surface. Neglect the weight of the tank. Compute the compression index of the clay, compute the settlement under the center of the tank, and find the minimum depth in the ground to which the tank must be placed in order to minimize settlement.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. So, di pa pangitaon, compression index. Balik ito sa formula. Years. It's example, di mo memorize ano. Kasi balik. So this time, hindi akong gihatag no si liquid limit. But, naman ato ang mga liquidity index and plastic limit. And ato ang water content so we can solve for our liquid limit. Liquid limit. Hmm. No, ang ato ang equation ano is all ay. Yeah. So we can solve for our liquid limit. And that is equal to 51.01. So our compression index is 0.369. Next is we will solve for the effective stress. So that is the total pressure minus the pore pressure. Now unit weight times the height. Unit weight times the height minus the pore pressure. Take note, mid height claim, so that's 7 meters. And then the stress increase. How will we solve for the stress increase, class? Naatay oil. No, naatay unit weight sa itong oil. So therefore, naman tayo unit weight, kasi ato multiply from cost pressure atong height. So unit weight times the height, which is 12 meters. And that is the additional pressure. Okay? Since na naman tayo delta P and ito ang PO, we can solve for our normally consolidated clay settlement. Ayan. And that is equal to 871.48. Now, the third one is medyo makawindang siya because you need to analyze the problem job. But hindi papalitan with any is minimum depth. And how will you get the minimum depth? That is by equating our oil, atong pressure sa oil, equate na to siya sa pressure sa atong soil. No? So that is pressure sa atong oil times iyang height to 12 times 18.88 times height sa inyong sand, which is 3 meters, plus unit weight sa itong clay times h or ang height sa or ang height niya sa ubos or ang depth dapat niya. So atong makuha ang h na is 3.24. Ang total depth is the 3 meters sa sand. Ang h mo na kadalaw. So 3 meters atong sand, don't mind this one kaya error siya, plus height, and that is equal to 6.34. And we are down to our last same examples. So we have here compression index, basic class C, compression index. Now, can compression index class is empirical from last meaning. This is based from balik-balik na experimentation and nakuha nila mga assumptions based from the experiments that they did. The most common formula no, kani siya. Ito ang gamit. This is because ideally, ang ato ang soil dapat sa ating testing or sample is dapat undisturbed. So, ang kanina siya yung file. So, sa compression index, this is ang formula. Compression coefficient.
Mungkin mo, di ba? Wala mo dito tugnaw ba?
Coefficient of volume to be equal. And coefficient of compressibility AV. So, and then take note and EAV, that is just the average void ratio. Okay? And then E1 is void ratio based on initial pressure or P1, and then E2 is void pressure, void ratio at E2. K is the coefficient of permeability, and the YW is the unit weight of your water. Now, time factor, this is the formula. Take note, HDR, nakadepende na siya, no? So, HDR is the height of your clay, but it depends whether it is drained on both sides or drained on one side only. Kasi possible sa drain on both sides. For example, drain. Kani siya kay sand. Kani siya kay sand. Atong sand is, di ba drain atong water there? Meaning, drain siya on both sides. But what if kani siya kay rock? So, diba, atong rock, the drain bog soil, di ba digri? The drain water, di ba digri? So, drain siya only on one side. So, if drain siya on both sides, dapat 2 na siya. Na siya over 2. But if drained on one side, over 1 na siya. Okay? So, this is the degree of saturation, degree of consolidation, then another formula. So, this is the relation of your time and degree of saturation. So, that is U1 over T2 equal to U1 squared over U2 squared. And then, excuse me, and you also have formula for your time factor, no? So, yung time factor nakadepend sa kung sa imong degree of consolidation. So, if 0 to 60, you will use the formula TV is equal to 5 over 4 times U over 100 squared. If greater than 60, you will use this formula. Now, there might be cases or in other references, and now in stable. Not table, but graph. So, inani ang graph na i-logarithmic kung ito. So, kung siya nga axis, x-axis niya is all in one unit. Yung y-axis ang TV. So, if ever gihatag sa inyo ang graph, we could use the graph. But mas safer if gamitin mo ang formulas kay exact na value in makuha sa formula. Now, for over consolidation ratio, na given naman ni kaganyan, that is just equal to PC for kaya. So, for example 6, kani siya mga ginakasolve lang niyang C ang compression index, kung coefficient of compressibility, void ratio. So, given naman no, ito E1, E2, P1, E2, so wala na tayo laing solve na variables. Diretso na ta substitute sa ating formula. Itong compression index, so lahi ang formula no, wala. Man po given. You cannot use LL to 0.009 L almost 10 because really man given to liquid limit na to. So, we use the given values of our void ratio and pressure. And we get 0.311. The for coefficient of compressibility, that is your AV. So that if U1 minus V2 over P2 minus P1, that is 5.946 times power of negative 4, which is squared over K. Then void ratio daw ko no if your pressure is equal to 600 kPa. Oo nga na siya. And that is the formula, di ba, kani CC. Ang katuwa ko ng P na change to hindi siya nimo 600. Since 600 naman siya pasabot ka to, E2 mausab. And E2 man sa kita ito ang void ratio. So we use the same formula, but ang malahi is ang kanilang ato ang P2. Okay? Ato ang compression index as is na siya plus. Okay, same naman yung soil. So that is equal to 0.864. For example 7. The here it's coefficient of compressibility, the coefficient of consolidation, for example, both create on both sides, and then hydraulic conductivity. So, volume of compression compressibility is direct formula. So that's easy. We want as the average of your void pressure. No, average of your void ratio right there. And that is equal to before we solve for MV, we solve first EV. No. So EV is equal to 0.22 minus 0.78 over P2 minus P1. And then since we have our value for EV, we can substitute it to our original equation. And then that is 1 plus your E1 plus E2 over 2, average mo na to. And that is your coefficient of volume compressibility, 1.081. For coefficient of consolidation of sample clean that is drained on both sides with no drained on both sides. Meaning we divide into each all two. Also take note the units, no? So dapat yung units ani is uniform. Okay? Since di ba pangita kay coefficient of consolidation, naka meter squared per second man, dapat all our units should be converted into meters and seconds. So at all time nga 2.5 minutes, we convert to seconds, ng ato ang 25 millimeters, we convert to meters. And of course, divide siya to since it is trained on both sides. And you get the value of your CV. Now for hydraulic conductivity, all we have to do is choose the formula. CV is equal to K over MV gamma W. Since alam natin na solve the CV, then natin solve the MV. So unit weight to water is 3.81. Oops. MV. And then our hydraulic conductivity is equal to 2.176 times 10 to the power of negative 9. Now we are down to our last example. I would like to ask Miss Ariano to please read example 8. Na si Ariana. Ariana, Kaufman, Kaufman, wala siya. I'll be calling another person, Joseph Labria.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
So
really ready for
consider the
that.
current profile shown in the following figure. The soil is subjected to a uniformly distributed load, delta P, 31.1 kilonewton per square meters in the ground surface. The sand is such that um, YD is equal to 16.5 kilonewton per cubic meter, and saturated units weight of sand is equal to 19.3 kilonewton per cubic meter. The underlying clay has a saturated unit weight of 20.5 kilonewton per cubic meter, and liquid limit is equal to 38. E sub 0 is equal to 0.81, and C sub S is equal to 0.25 cc. Depth H1, H2, and H3 are as shown. A. Determine the primary consolidation displacement of the normally consolidated clay. We determine the primary consolidation for the clay layer specified in the previous problem if it had a pre-consolidation pressure of 95 kilopascal. C, given the coefficient of consolidation CV is equal to 0.24 centimeter uh, square meter per minute, how long will it take for 75% consolidation to be over in the field?
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Really. So this is a diagram of problem. So first, we're going to look at primary consolidation, right? So given the ring and normally consolidated shaft, so first things first, we solve for our compression index, and that is 0.09 times LR minus 10, and that is equal to 0.52, 252. Then for your overburden pressure at the mid-height of your clay, again ha, mid-height of your clay, so dili na siya taman, 2 meters, then that is equal to 82.85. Since normally consolidated, our formula is SC is equal to CCH over 1 plus E logarithmic of your pressures. Then you substitute all the values, you get 73.82 millimeters. Medyo direct pa jud kayo ang pag-solve on the class. Kaya natin mga formulas good. And then for the second question, is the formula measured free consolidation pressure than 95 kPa? What is our primary consolidation? So, first things first is we solve for our PO plus our additional pressure. So that is 113. Compare na to sa atong 95, diba? That is greater than 95, meaning the formula is this one. So, kung taas na formula. Since we're renew aning value mo, meaning is off again. So, substitute now. So, our swell index, our height, no, swell index, take note, is 1/5. No, ang ginagamit diri given 0.25 cc. So, it is 0.25 cc. O, yan ba? So, I think that's it. Then your primary consolidation is equal to 50.05 millimeters. Now, for the last question, given coefficient of consolidation is 0.4, pila daw kuno um, siguro days, how long will it take for 75% to be of consolidation to field? So this 75% is your degree of consolidation. So di ba naman yung formula ani? That is CV to HDR. Oh. So before that, solve Sanatosity, or our time factor. Since 75% is greater than 60, we use this formula. So our time factor is equal to 0.477. That's okay, so then at the time factor, our CV is 0.24, but wala nang dimension, no? Pwede mo answers ano a days, pwede mo minutes, hours, you can choose whatever unit you like, but the days lang niya kay medyo taas-taas yung good. Pwede ko nila i-convert to years. So, depende sa imong ano, sa whole number, mamili yung what if days, o imong kuha nga unit. So, wala lang diri is atong time. And then atong HDR, that is the height of our clay, which is 4 meters. But take note, diba, na condition, if HDR is drained on both sides, dapat mag-divide sa o 2. But since drained on one side naman siya, your clay is drained, but your rock isn't. Meaning, over 1 na siya. So, as is ratong 4,000. And the answer is 221 meters. And I believe that is the last example. Do you have any questions to us? Kindly raise your hand if you do not have any questions. How about the others? Okay, so medyo daghan naman. In the meantime, while I'm discussing, na lang ko yung additional na inputs. From na lang tayo additional na inputs, no? So, while the share ko, kindly prepare a clean sheet of paper and then your ball pen and your calculator. It's activity. Again, please prepare your pen and paper because you have an activity after. The next, so one our topic siya is kung ano siya sa boards. Tas kapila dyan siya nagpalik-balik sa boards kining settlement. Kapila dyan siya nagpalik-balik. So to give you an overview, no? Nibalik siya atong April 2025, which is phase 2 lang. Atong November 2024, na siya. Atong April 2024, na siya. Atong November 2024, nagyapon. May 2022, nagyapon. May 2018, nagyapon. May 2017, kwan siya, favorite siya ni Sir Dakay ato ang examiner for HGE. That is why I am showing you the equation. Ayan. So, ngayon, katulad mo may anyways, let's continue. So, sa flat example, ayan, the change of your height is equal to height similarly times the void ratio over 1 plus your initial void ratio. Okay, so kindly take a screenshot of the formula because this will be relevant to your seat work. Okay, so your seat work is always good for 30 minutes. No, so ayan. Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am, for our sheet work, pen
Yes,
and paper, ma'am.
yes, as long as it's been, ano ba po na yellow pad? Yung parang paper lang gamita.
Last kami.
So with current time is 8:05. Timer set the deadline to 8:40.
Oh,
One. So kindly take a screenshot of your square that is good for 20 points. So you submit, dapat naka-scan PDF siya with your solution along with your name and section written, section date and the name of your instructor written at the upper left corner of your bond paper, and then an image of you holding your paper. So the deadline will be tonight at 8:40 p.m. through GClass. And make sure nga dili moabot og 8:40 exact pa magbasa because si Google Classroom is dili siya modawat og paper usually if on time. So submit it before 8:40, like 8:39. Kung nag 8:40, dili na dawaton ni Google Class. Okay, so do you have any questions? Yes. Sorry.
Can I answer ni ma'am or dili na? Tuition submissions.
Kung saan sanali, medyo choppy yung voice.
Ay, wala ma'am. Ano ma'am, di ba ano ma'am?
So, dili, gihapon sa ko ang end.
Ay, ako
Pwede
na
mo.
type ma'am.
Sige, sige.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, call.
Three decimal lang final answer, ma'am. Or two lang.
For reconsider.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, the problem. Sumuko naman kayo ng problem, but i-copy up yung problem.
Ang given lang akong Kuan, ma'am. Pwede ra, ma'am. Wala na ko siya gi-word for word.
Easy. Oh, wala. Pwede na.